Hi everyone, it's release day at Crafty Meraki and we're starting off with a fun YouTube hop. Meraki Hugs is a gorgeous collection of products. The new addition to Meraki Artisan Flora Die Peony is absolutely gorgeous and is definitely at the top of my list of favorites. It has been used in conjunction with a new 3-piece die set, Meraki Moments Hey. Getting started with the background, cream colored cardstock was die cut with Crafty Plaid background die. This is quite an intricate die, and typically if I wanted to remove all of those little die cuts, I would run it back and forth in my die cutter 3 or 4 times. I only made one pass because I just want to remove some of those die cuts from the corners. The panel will be adhered to gold glitter cardstock. I make sure that I have good coverage of adhesive on the panel. I catch some of those crisscross lines to ensure that it's going to lay flat. After the panel has been laid down on the glitter cardstock, I pop my MISTI on top for a few minutes just to make sure that I've got really good contact between the two. Initially, I thought that I would have a gold glitter border around the panel and decided against that, and so ended up having to trim it off. And then on it went to an A2 size top folding card base. The peony die set comes with a set of illustrated instructions. This is a great support for working with this beautifully layered design. I will have 2 peonies, so I've die cut it twice from Bristol Smooth cardstock. This large die will cut all of the pieces to make the peony plus the flower bud. As I pull the die cuts together, I layer them in the order that they will be assembled. Those pieces that form the flower bud will be set aside for now. I'll be working with Copic markers to add in just a little touch of color on these peonies. Having the die cuts arranged in the order that they will go together will help me determine where that color needs to go. I'll be adding in some peachy pink tones with R20, the darkest tone, and then R000. I'll be leaving some white space on the tips of the petals, and so we'll be using my colorless blender to blend out that lightest tone. Now I can grab the next consecutive layer, line it up, and just get an idea of where to put in the color. I'll always start off with my darkest marker to ensure that I'm getting my shadow areas in more or less the right place. And then I blend it out with my light tone towards the petal's edge where I finish it off with the colorless blender. As I work through the die cuts, you'll notice that the main ones have a little triangle that has been die cut from the center of them. Along with the guide, this is another point of reference that is used to ensure that those die cuts are being aligned correctly. For me, those little triangular die cuts are doing double duty. At this point, they're helping me figure out where those shadow areas are going to be so I can blend that color out to the petal's edge. I'm left with just the 2 largest base die cuts to add some color to. To help get a seamless blend between the dark and light tone, I do a couple of things. When I first apply the ink, in most cases I feather it on. That will lighten the amount of ink that is on the edges. Then when I move on to my lighter tone, I start applying the color just inside where I finished off with the darker tone. And as I go out towards the petal's edge, I will use a scrubbing motion. And I'm finishing my coloring. I'm just going to layer it up quickly to ensure that I've got the colors in all the right places and add a little bit of color to some of those detail pieces. Now to start putting this peony together, I'm only going to be applying the glue in the center of the die cut. Each layer that is added on will have 1 or 2 petals that will align to the previous layers. I'll choose one of those petals to align first, and then working towards the center, align the triangular die cut. This little cup-shaped die cut, I lifted up that curved piece on the previous die cut to see the curved line underneath it. And I'm going to apply this die cut on top of it, but following that line. It will also be positioned so that it covers up that triangular die cut. This die cut will provide some further detail to two petals that stretch across the bottom of the peony. It will line up perfectly along the bottom edge. And now to finish up with 4 little detail die cuts. This one will fit right on the edge of that petal that's on the right-hand side. And then the second little die cut will go right at the base of it, forming a V shape. The last 2 die cuts will match perfectly with 2 sections at the top of the peony. And I'm just using my craft pick to help get this last piece aligned, and there we go. The peony is complete. Now for the sweet flower buds, I'll be having 2, so I have 2 sets of die cuts lined up in the order in which they'll be assembled. They'll be colored using the very same Copic markers that were used on the peony. And of course the bud's a little bit more straightforward to not only put together but to apply the color to. I start off with my darkest color at the bottom of this second die cut and then finish it off with that R000. I've got the first 2 die cuts stacked together, and I'll take the third one and just lay it on top to see where I'm going to put that dark color. And I'll start off at the outside edge and then work towards the other side with my lighter tone. And I'll lay this one on top, and now for the last die cut, I'll start with my dark color also on the outside edge, which will be opposite to the previous die cut, and then work towards the other side with my light tone and then my colorless blender. And the buds are complete, and now I just need to glue those layers together. The second die that is included in this set will produce all of the greenery that is needed. I've used it to die cut a mid-green cardstock 2 times. Each of these main die cuts will have some layering pieces. The detail die cuts have been laid out. I'm going to be using YG17, a little bit of a darker shade of green than the actual die cuts, to add some depth and definition. Detail die cuts will act as a reference for the placement of this darker green. Then I'll finish off with the colorless blender to blend that color out with the cardstock. The 3 little leafy details are added onto each of the leaves. For the stem for the bud, I'll darken the stem and then adhere that little detail piece to the top. The stems are adhered to the bottom of the buds, and this is my favorite part when you start seeing everything come together. And for the final leaf, I'll add some of that green onto the stem and into the leaves, and then take that pretty die cut detail and add that on top. Meraki Moments Hay is a 3-piece die set. There is a shadow die, which I'm not using for this sentiment, then the sentiment and letters to highlight it. I've die cut the sentiment from both black cardstock and black sheet foam. The letters have been die cut from beautiful gold glitter cardstock. After the letters are adhered to the sentiment, there's a fine black outline really making it pop. When it is adhered to the foam die cut, its dimension will match those of the peonies. I just have the floral design laid out temporarily so that I can position my sentiment onto the card front. I'll first adhere the leaf and one of the flower buds so that it frames the left-hand side of the sentiment. The peony on the right has been adhered directly to the card front. Made sure not to take the adhesive right out to the outside edges of the peony so that the leaves could be slipped in. The other peony will be popped up with foam squares. I'll then pull those leaves that are temporarily positioned at the top and add some adhesive to them. And then I'll finish up with one of those leafy sprigs being cut down to add some final details to the bottom of the peony pear. And can you ever have too much sparkle on a card? I'm not sure that you can. And so I'm going to add in some beautiful sparkle golden illusion crystals. Thank you for joining me, and be sure to visit all the other talented designers in this YouTube hop. There's a fabulous draw for a $100 gift card for the Crafty Meraki store. The link for the entry form can be found in the description of this video. Good luck, everyone, and as always, I appreciate your visit.